Today's race at Talladega is going to be remembered for a very, very long time. That's the kind of NASCAR race that's going to bring fans to the sport. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric, and welcome to Out of the Groove. Ooh-wee, I feel like I haven't breathed in like 3 hours. That was one of the most fantastic NASCAR races, one of the most intense finishes, one of the most incredible and memorable events of my entire lifetime I can think of. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about the top finishers from Talladega. Of course, I'm going to talk about that insane finish. We had like an entire race's worth of narratives in the final 300 yards of this race. So we're going to talk about that finish. We're going to talk about this entire race, put it on the Groovy gauge at the very end. But before I get too far into this, before I start talking about Talladega specifically, of course, I have to address the elephant in the room. So late last night, NASCAR released an official statement saying late this afternoon, NASCAR was made aware that a noose was found in the garage stall of the 43 team. We are angry and outraged and cannot state strongly enough how seriously we will take this heinous act. We have launched an immediate investigation and will do everything we can to identify the persons responsible and eliminate them from the sport. As we have stated unequivocally, there is no place for racism in NASCAR, and this act only strengthens our resolve to make the sport open and welcoming to all. When that news broke, that shook the entire NASCAR industry, the entire NASCAR community, if you will, shook everyone to the core. To see something like that, something that is so disgusting, so blatantly hateful, to see that happen within the ranks, within the close confines of a NASCAR Cup Series race weekend, really, it shook me, and I know it shook a lot of other people. As it rightfully should. NASCAR, of course, is launching a full investigation into who did this. They'll find the people responsible, and Steve Phelps stated earlier today before the Cup race restarted that whoever they find responsible would be banned from NASCAR for life, and I think that is 100% fair and accurate. That is well-deserved. We've talked recently about how NASCAR chose to ban the Confederate flag at its events. NASCAR and many of its drivers have been more outspoken, in a broad sense, I would say, about many social issues in the United States of America these days. No matter where you may stand on some of the more finer political details, I think it should be obvious to everyone that putting a noose in the garage stall of the only full-time black NASCAR Cup Series driver is wrong. I mean, is extremely wrong. I mean, it's a hate crime. It's illegal. And so while hearing that news late last night made it hard to sleep and made it not fun to wake up this morning, once it got time for pre-race ceremonies and for the race to begin today, I have to applaud everyone within the NASCAR industry. All the drivers, the team members, the crew members, the guys at the very top, because what the drivers did and what many of the crew members did before the race at Talladega today was an incredibly powerful sight and a very powerful gesture, in my opinion, a show of solidarity and unity that we are all one big NASCAR community. And NASCAR is not exclusive to any one group of people. NASCAR should be accessible and open to all decent people in the world. And so seeing all the drivers help push Bubba Wallace's 43 car to the front of the grid, stand around his car with Richard Petty there during the national anthem, certainly sent a powerful message, in my opinion, that things like what happened yesterday in the 43 garage stall will not be tolerated and should not be tolerated in NASCAR or anywhere. So I thought the way the drivers and teams handled it today was absolutely fantastic. NASCAR, of course, is investigating, with the help of the FBI, actually, is investigating the incident, and I'm sure that there will be fair punishment down the line, hopefully sometime soon. Anyway, with that being said, we do have a lot to talk about and react to regarding today's Talladega race. Of course, today's race was rain delayed. This was the fourth Super Speedway Cup race in a row to be postponed a full day, going back to last summer at Daytona when they had to postpone the Saturday night race to Sunday afternoon, and then it still got rain shortened when Justin Haley. NASCAR, my point is, NASCAR has not had good luck at the super speedways when it comes to weather in the last year. And even today's race featured maybe an hour or so, a little over an hour long red flag when turns 1 and 2 got rained pretty hard. I'm honestly shocked that this race didn't feature more weather delays, given what the radar looked like this morning. Once the green flag flew, this thing was a nail biter from start to finish. Now, NASCAR, coming into this race, changed the rules package just a little bit. They lowered the horsepower slightly because they wanted to get the speeds under 200 miles an hour in the pack, and they were somewhat successful. Speeds still crept over 200 from time to time in the draft today, but they were mostly successful in lowering the speeds. This was, of course, in response to Ryan Newman's terrifying crash at Daytona earlier this year, but NASCAR did that. They also removed the aero ducts. They put slip tape on the front of the cars to make it a little harder to bump draft. That did not stop people from bump drafting aggressively today, but from start to finish, even with the little red flag in the middle, this race was phenomenal. It was the perfect super speedway race from start to that epic finish. You know, NASCAR races, they're long. And you know, while there are stage points and that gets people riled up in the middle of the races, you know, the big money is paid at the very end. So at least long races at Daytona and Talladega, historically, there's at least 1 or 2 stretches in the race where a lot of the drivers kind of get single file, take it easy, breathe for a minute. That never happened today. There was not a single lap run today of the entirety. It was over 188 laps. There was not a single lap run single file under green. They were constantly 2, 3, sometimes 4 wide throughout the pack, not just in the back where it doesn't really matter. For the lead, top 5, top 10, it was insane. They never, ever let up today. And part of that is probably due to the imminent threat of weather. Of course, they almost made it to halfway before that red flag, so drivers were racing a little aggressively there. And even shortly after the red flag, once they were still racing to halfway, the intensity was through the window. Once the radar started to clear up in stage 3, then at that point it was just near the end of the race, so people were driving like crazy anyway. So this race kind of in that case, I think, was benefited by the incoming and looming threat of bad weather. You know it's a good race when I am steaming on my couch anytime Fox cuts to a full screen commercial break during green flag racing. The moment that comes up, I'm panicked because I don't know what's going on. There's so much happening and I'm missing it. That's when you know it's a good race. And that's exactly how I felt throughout this race. It was intense throughout. And they maintained this intensity without wrecking a whole lot. There really were not any big ones. Talladega is known for the big one where like 20 cars wreck at some point because someone gets out. You know, that never happened today. In the very last lap, there was a multi-car crash and then there was another small crash at the very end across the checkered flag. But I don't know if either of those would really count as big ones. They didn't involve like 15 or 20 cars or anything like that. They were medium-sized ones perhaps. But my point is they maintained 3 and 4 wide racing for nearly 188 laps or nearly 200 laps without wrecking and causing the big one. The Team Penske cars worked together really well throughout the day. Blaney, Logano, Keselowski, even Matt DiBenedetto, they worked together phenomenally. I don't think that any of them had necessarily the best car from start to finish, but the way they worked together was incredible. They found each other. Every restart, every run, they found each other and made it work. The first big wreck, big incident of the race came in stage 3 when Chase Elliott got turned off the front bumper of Brad Keselowski. Joey Logano threw kind of a late block. Chase Elliott tried to kind of go beneath him, got turned off the bumper of Keselowski, kind of just a stack-up incident after a perhaps risky block from Logano that sent Chase Elliott into the wall, sent him to the garage, ended his day, also ended Austin Dillon's day. But that was really the only big wreck of the race. Late in this thing, Jimmy Johnson got spun off the front end of Kevin Harvick's bumper when going for the lead late. In my opinion, Kevin Harvick was kind of trying to squeeze into a hole that wasn't really there. That being said, he did make some room and Jimmy Johnson came down a little bit. I can't really fault Jimmy Johnson entirely. I'd put more of the blame on Harvick, but it is late in the race. Aggressive moves are needed at times. So it was kind of just a racing deal. 2 veteran drivers not being too friendly with each other right there. But that, of course, set up the green-white checkered finish. There's so much more I could talk about in this race, but I only have a set amount of time. I could talk about the fuel mileage pressure going down the stretch. The final 40 laps, the entire lead pack was concerned about fuel. And if not for that Jimmy Johnson spin, there are a lot of drivers that likely would have run out and would have needed to pit under green and would have cost really good finishes. But ultimately, with that caution, that set up a green-white checkered, an overtime finish, and that's where things just got absolutely insane. You saw the finish, another photo finish, another Talladega race, won by Ryan Blaney. Eric Jones came out of nowhere on the final straightaway of the race and almost won this thing, if not for Blaney kind of wadding him up into the wall. I guess Blaney didn't really know he and Jones were 3 wide, but still little messy from Blaney when he got that win, which is why he was perhaps a little subdued in his post-race celebration. You could tell he was a little bothered by the fact that he had to kind of wreck Eric Jones to get the win, but I will give Ryan Blaney credit. He probably ran the best race of anyone all day. He led a ton of laps. Like I said earlier, he and his teammates worked really well together, and even when they got separated late in this race, it was Ryan Blaney who was able to move his way through the field almost by himself. He didn't really have a whole lot of teammates helping him the final run of the race. He did it on his own. You have to throw aggressive blocks in that case, maybe a little overzealous with the door slam on Eric Jones at the end there, but I'll allow it. And you guys know I'm a big Eric Jones fan. I was bummed when I saw it, but I'm okay with it. He didn't know they were 3 wide because the fact that John Hunter Nemechek was there as well probably made that wreck a little bit worse. Jones still finished 5th, I think, 5th or 6th. We'll look at the top finishing results. I don't know if they're even are the finishing results official yet? I guess so. Well, Blaney barely beat out Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who's won at Talladega before, ran also a very impressive race in my opinion. He and Kyle Busch worked together really well in stage 2 to actually get Stenhouse the stage win. He came up about this much short of winning his third career Cup Series race. Aric Almirola, rolling backwards, finished third. Erik Jones, I just mentioned, was wadded up into the wall, but he still crossed the line, technically in fifth. Bubba Wallace, who of course many of the headlines and much of the conversation was about, he came across the line in 14th. He actually led a lap late in this race. He got the big push, led for a brief moment, but unfortunately he was one of the drivers that needed to save fuel at the end there, lost some track position before that final caution. Otherwise, he might have been up in that top 5 or 6 and had a shot at winning this thing at the very end. Tyler Reddick finishing 20th there, won stage 1 before the rain hit. So there's your top 20 finishing results. It's Talladega. A lot of chaos. There was a big wreck on the white flag lap before the final wreck with Erik Jones and Denny Hamlin and Aric Almirola and all that. And to be totally honest, NASCAR should have thrown the caution right then there. The race should have been over. I mean, it was a big wreck in the middle of the pack. Several drivers got into each other and made pretty significant contact. And since it was in the middle of the pack, there were a few cars that had to kind of weave their way through the wreckage under green still. NASCAR should have thrown the caution. We asked for NASCAR to be consistent. NASCAR is not consistent in this case, but nobody's going to talk about it. No one's going to talk about it because it resulted in a dramatic photo finish. Make up your mind, fans. NASCAR's trying to do what you guys want. Fans want consistency, but they also want NASCAR to swallow the whistle in key moments. What do you guys want? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what I want. I trust NASCAR's judgment usually to keep their drivers safe, but also create the most dramatic and exciting finish possible. That's what they did today, but just wait until this affects someone's driver that they like. You know, at some point, someone's going to get mad and point to this race as an example when NASCAR didn't throw the caution, and they're going to use that to justify their anger in the future. That will happen one of these days. So I don't know. Do we want NASCAR to be consistent, or do we want NASCAR to just throw caution to the wind and let the races play out how they play out in the final laps? That's for fans to decide, but fans will never come to a universal conclusion on that one. So anyway, the finish was dramatic. Finish was exciting. I mean, there's so much to talk about with this race. I'm trying to do a lot of it off memory. I could talk about John Hunter Nemechek spinning out early on, but coming back to finish top 10. I could talk about the restart where Christopher Bell just turned left on his teammate Erik Jones. I guess he thought Jones would let him in, but Jones had a car up his bumper, so Jones couldn't really do anything about it, and Bell forced Jones below the yellow line, got penalized for it. It was kind of just dumb, bad execution by the rookie there. Kyle Busch, who I mentioned, worked well with Ricky Stenhouse Jr., ultimately did not get a good finish. He had some sort of mechanical or tire issue late in the race, had to pit under green. That put him off the lead lap and cost him from having a good finish. Matt Kenseth as well was running in the top 10 when he seemed to have a part break. I never heard what it actually was. It sounded like it could have been a left rear hub on the 42 car, so just a mechanical issue, costing Matt Kenseth a possibly decent run. When it's all said and done, this is a race that will be remembered forever. You know how Fox during rain delays sometimes airs, Fox's all-time greatest NASCAR races segment, and they count down like the top 10? This will be on that list. Starting today, this race today will be on that list from now on. This is going to be one of those races that is on a similar level, maybe not quite to the same level as the 2001 Pepsi 400. It's going to be on a similar level maybe to the 1998 Daytona 500 when Dale Earnhardt finally won the 500 after 20 years of trying. This race is going to be on the same level as some of those types of races just because of the significance behind it. NASCAR needed a good thing to happen today, and they got maybe the best case scenario out of it. They had the great moment pre-race, which credit to Mike Joy and the Fox team. When they went live at 3 p.m. Eastern time today, he nailed it. His monologue at the beginning, the images Fox chose to show, the drivers, of course, doing their part to show solidarity. That was an extremely moving and powerful, I don't know how long it was, maybe 5 minutes of television to start the show, really set the tone for the entire race today. So credit to them for that. But of course, even after that, the race itself, as I've been talking about this whole time, was fantastic. You don't have to wreck 100 race cars to have a great race at Talladega, and today proved that. The rules package NASCAR has in place, even with the small tweaks they made, did not affect the racing in any negative way. In fact, it might have made the racing a little bit better and likely made it a little bit safer because they weren't going 207 miles an hour today. NASCAR hit a home run today when they needed it, perhaps most of all. So today's race, in my opinion, should go down in history as one of the greatest NASCAR races of all time. It's a race that I will remember forever. It is the best NASCAR race I think I've seen maybe ever. From start to finish, even just if I choose to ignore the pre-race stuff and all the extra significance around it, if I just focus on lap 1 to lap 190 or whatever they end up going to today, it still might be the best overall NASCAR race I have ever seen. And that might be high praise, but keep in mind, my favorite driver of all time finished dead last today, and I still have these positive words to say. That's how good the racing was. Like I said at the very beginning, this was the kind of race that is going to bring new fans into NASCAR. This is the type of race that will get new generations, new fans who previously maybe didn't think much about racing or stock car racing or NASCAR or anything like that. This is what's going to bring new fans to America's favorite motorsport, and is going to continue to make it bigger, and it's going to continue to allow it to thrive for many years to come. Not saying every race should be a super speedway or a drafting race forever and ever. No, I'm not saying that, but this is a great entry point for new fans to learn the basics of NASCAR. And then, this weekend when we go to Pocono for the doubleheader, races are probably going to be a little bit more boring than what we saw today, but races like Talladega here are the best possible entry point for new fans to get interested in NASCAR and to understand what it's all about and kind of understand some of the thrill that us longtime NASCAR fans have known for many years. With all the negativity around NASCAR this weekend, from the Bubba Wallace incident to even the weather, what NASCAR continues to catch bad breaks with the weather. With all that negativity, NASCAR needed a fantastic race, a fantastic event, and that's exactly what they got. And they got to do it in front of roughly 5,000 fans in the stands, which is pretty freaking cool. Let's put this race on the unofficial, official, grooviest gauge on the planet. This race, if you couldn't tell already, it's a 100%. In fact, can I make this thing higher? Can I just keep going? Yeah, just off the screen. Just get out of here. I don't want to see you again. Yeah, no, this thing's a 100%. A 1,000% if it's possible. I guess I make the rules. Yeah, it's a 1,000%. Screw it. I'm making up the rules as I go along here. This is my Groovy gauge. This was a perfect NASCAR race in every sense of the word. This was the best NASCAR race from start to finish I can remember watching. So yeah, it's 100%. Let me know what you guys think down below. Did you like this race? Did you love this race? Did you think this was the best race you've ever seen? If you hated this race, you are entitled to your opinion, but you better leave a very insightful comment as to why you did not like this race. I'd be curious to hear it. I understand Chase fans probably aren't happy. As a Matt Kenseth fan, I was bummed when he had mechanical issues. I understand favorite drivers not having great days. That thrown out the window, objectively, I thought this was the perfect NASCAR race. And I'm sure hopefully many other fans enjoyed it as well. But anyway, that's all I've got for today's episode. Woo. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate the support. Subscribe if you are new. We do these types of videos multiple times a week, every single week. We're talking all things NASCAR every day on this channel. So subscribe if you're interested in more of that. Follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, and of course, a big thank you to my Patreon supporters. You all are the reason I'm able to upload pretty much daily nowadays. So I greatly appreciate your support. I will be at Bristol for the All-Star race here in just a few short weeks. I'm gonna do a video from there as well. And that would not be possible without your support. So if you enjoy the content on this channel, if you want to support it and help make it even better and help it continue to grow, please consider checking out that top link in the description. I greatly appreciate it, y'all. It sucks we have to go to Pocono and do a double header after this one. The second Pocono race last year was okay. So I'll reserve my judgment, but all I can think about right now is how fantastic this race today was, how dramatic the finish was, how dramatic the entirety of this weekend was, and how it ultimately ended on a high note. Was fantastic. I hope fans enjoyed that, because I know I certainly did. I'll see you guys later this week. We'll have more to talk about, I'm sure. But thank you all for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, y'all.